Sex trafficking is real and it can happen to anyone. Megan Lundstrom is a perfect example. She was a young mom who was fleeing an abusive marriage. Here is her story.
Megan was an honor student with big college plans, but then life forced her down a dangerous and devastating path.
At 23, I really thought that I could just escape all of the hard stuff and, physically move away and that everything would get better.
But life as a single mom is hard. So a friend introduces her to sugaring to make some extra money.
It's marketed in this really pretty, beautiful way of like, oh, you're just spending time together. This affluent individual is helping you get through school.
Megan quickly realizes the sinister underlying factor of the term.
So I had tried it a few times, thinking very naively that that's what sugaring was, and found out very quickly that it wasn't, that it was essentially prostitution, and didn't feel comfortable doing it. I did not want to do that.
Megan's boyfriend becomes her first trafficker and pushes her to take sugaring to the next level.
He pushed me into just outright prostitution. He controlled all of the money. I had to ask for bills to be paid, and things just escalated from there.
Finding herself in another abusive relationship, Megan moves out of state.
I happened to go on a trip with one of my regular customers out to Las Vegas, and long story short, ended up being sold to another trafficker to eventually be able to stop the harassment from the first trafficker.
9 months in Vegas, Megan starts to question everything after another victim receives a gift from their trafficker.
She's getting a used vehicle after 5 years, and I know how much money he's taken from me in less than a year. Could pay cash for a brand new vehicle. She's just now getting this. Like, I don't want to do this for another 4 years for a used vehicle. Like, that's not adding up in my head at all. And so at that point, like, my motivation just really, it just stopped. It just died. I didn't see the point in doing this anymore.
Her trafficker realizes that he is losing control.
He said, you need to leave town. And if I ever see you on the Las Vegas Strip, we will have problems.
But it's the only life Megan knows. So she continues to book clients back home.
At the time, I'm still coming out of this brainwashing situation. So I believed fully that I was not good at anything else, that nothing else was possible for me to do, that this was essentially my calling and my place in life. But I also knew very practically that I did not have other options to exit quickly.
And earlier we sat down with Megan to understand how easy the lines can blur and how she got out. Megan, thank you so much for joining us here in DBL and having the courage to speak about your story. So you say sugaring is what led you to sex trafficking. What do people not understand about sugaring?
So many things are not understood about sugaring. I think one of the big misconceptions is just how it's packaged and sold to like teens and college age young adults, that it's just a luxurious lifestyle, that it's just companionship and you get, nice clothing and trips. And the reality is very different from that.
Wow. I mean, this story has so many layers, because you were taking care of your two kids while you were sex trafficked. So how did this life change their childhood?
Yes, my children lived with me during my trafficking, and they were not exposed to the trafficking itself. What they were exposed to was just domestic violence, very unstable housing, very inconsistent parenting.
All right, Megan, so I got to follow up with this. You had a lot of run-ins with the law in Las Vegas. How did you handle that situation?
So when I moved to Vegas, my very first night in Las Vegas, my pimp put me in the casinos and I was arrested that very first night. Over the next about 8 or 9 months, I was arrested a total of 10 times in Las Vegas. Not once was I offered help. Not once was I screened for being a potential victim of human trafficking. In fact, I actually had officers during the booking process when I asked, could I wear one of you know, the corrections shirts because I was very cold in the holding cell. They told me, if you're cold, stop doing what you're doing and don't dress the way that you're dressing. And that's the reality for women in prostitution, how we're treated across the country, unfortunately.
You left this life in 2012, but it was all you knew at the time. How were you able to leave? What did you do?
So it really was not a single event. And I think that's really important for people to understand. I think trafficking is very sensationalized. So we think of, you know, kicking down a door and being able to step out and move on with your life. And that's not the case most of the time. My children have been at the forefront through all of this. So keeping my kids safe, providing for my children, realizing the harms and the danger that they were in, and then wanting something better for them.
Well, Megan, you are quite the comeback story because you are now the co-founder and director of research at the Avery Center. How is your organization trying to create change?
We have a research arm, and our mission statement is that lived experience must inform change. So we're going to people like myself who hold that lived experience and making sure those voices are elevated.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. It takes so much courage. You are saving lives. DBL Nation, please visit theaverycenter.org to learn more about this incredible organization. It was such a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope we can have you in the studio one day in the future. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.